Hello, Luke 12,000. First of all, I want to say thank you for your video response. Um, it's uh, it's a pleasure speaking with people, and I want to say to the YouTube community, some of you have been wonderful to talk with. You know, some people get a little hot under the collar, and their comments are a little bit out of sorts, but for the most part, you guys have been a pleasure to talk to. Excuse me. Give me 1 second. At any rate, I wanted to say concerning your video. Gee whiz, now I've lost my train of thought. Uh, Concerning your video, um, I understand your statement about logic being a sliding scale. I don't quite think a lot of people will agree with it. I mean, um, personally, I would be inclined to agree in certain circumstances. In certain circumstances, whether or not something is logical uh, would depend on the circumstance. So therefore, i.e., logic would be a sliding scale. I believe it was Sherlock Holmes that said, "Eliminate the impossible. Whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." So uh, you see some things that happen, and you say, "My God, it's irrational, it's illogical." But if it happened, then it must be true, you know. And then there's a thing in writing. I used to love to do a little writing, and now I do a lot less writing, a lot more speaking. But it's called suspension of disbelief. And suspension of disbelief is basically knowing that if you tell a story, the story must be believable. Um, One of the things about, and I've heard a couple of Christians, comment on this, and and they say, if 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 the Bible were just a book of stories, then they'd probably leave the bad ones out. Now, I'm not saying that that's proof that the Bible is true. I mean, I've always maintained, and I will continue to maintain, that believing in God is a personal thing. Um, as far as proof that I can give someone, there's no tangible evidence that I can give you to say that God exists. The only proof I have is my belief and my faith. That's the only proof that I have. I see the wonder of creation, and I attribute it to God. For me, it's illogical to attribute everything that I see when I marvel at the heavens and the stars, the moon, the planets, and all of creation. It's for me, it's illogical to attribute that to something as disorderly and unpredictably uncertain as an explosion. And that to me, that's logical. Um, when I think about the fact that the earth is perfectly positioned from the sun in order to sustain the life that we have, 2 degree or 2%, and I want to make sure I'm quoting this right, so you can check this on. I believe it's scienceandspace.com, or I believe I got this figure from, but it's 3% closer to the sun, and our atmosphere would burn up. 2% the distance further away from the sun, then our oceans would freeze. I mean, when I think about, and I apply science and I apply logic, and when I think about those types of things, when I think about the numbers of stars, when I think about the fact that if our moon were, of course, if when you look at tides, the tides, um, uh, because the moon has a direct effect on the Earth's gravitational pull, etc., etc. and our tides are determined by the distance, or without all the funky transitions, the distance the Earth is from the moon. And you think about the fact that if the moon was, of course, what is it? What's that rule that says um, uh, half the distance, twice the attraction? If the moon were closer to the sun, I mean closer to the Earth, then think of the forget about the tides. You know, what about our gravitational pull? What effect would that have? When I think about the precision of the universe, I just find it illogical to say that it was not purposely uh, and deliberately created. I find it difficult to believe that it's the and one thing I found, and this is just like I say, this is my rationale. It doesn't apply to anybody else unless you apply it to yourself. Um, One of the things that I've found is that explosions don't cause order. You know, that's the biggest thing that I have, that for me just completely obliterates any belief in the Big Bang. Okay, and that is that explosions don't cause order. I mean, anything that explodes goes into chaos. You light a firecracker and it destroys what it destroys. It and what is it that what is it that an explosion can do that would put things in order? Even in destroying a building, they use deep TNT dynamite. They can position it just so, and talk to any person that's worked in construction and demolition, and they'll tell you, 5-6 inches in any one direction blasting down a building could cause the building to collapse in such a way that it will wipe out everything around it. I mean, 6 inches, and we're talking 6 inches and a stick of dynamite. Now, think about the amount of energy that it would have taken to explode the galaxy, and think about the amount of disorder that explosion um, took. Think about that, and think about uh, you know, the orbit of our planets, and how that it's maintained, and why is it not blowing apart, or is it blowing apart? I mean, maybe you're privy to some information I don't have. I can't comment on. I just threw that in there. So at any rate, these are just some of the things, and I've been asked about a few of the things, the reasons that I believe, and these are a few of the reasons. I will address this though real quickly, and I'll try to say this quickly. Someone once said in a comment to me that I needed God, that my problem was that I needed God to substantiate my life. That I needed God in my life to give me purpose. Well, I will say that God does give me purpose. He does substantiate my life. My belief, my faith in Him does all of those things for me. But were I not to believe, if I did not have God, I would still have purpose because my life is full. You know, I have a wonderful family that loves me, that I love. I have successful business that I operate, that I enjoy. I enjoy sitting in my office. I enjoy going to work, and I mean, this is my office. It's not bad, by many standards. Um, I don't have the best of everything, but I venture to say I'm not lacking anything. You know, does my life have purpose without God? Of course it does. Does my life have meaning without God? I don't think so. So, do I? Yeah, I just wanted to say that because it kind of bothered me that someone would think that I'd be a purposeless individual if I